Today is June 6th, 2005, and we're at the residence of Mrs. Blanche Johnson doing the interview for the Struggles Hills Roots neighborhood. So we'll start the interview with Mrs. Johnson, who is a longtime resident of this area. Mrs. Johnson, what is your full name and what were your parents' name?
My name is Blanche Johnson. My father's Eddie Lewis Sr. My mother, Mary Jane Lewis.
Okay. And where did you live before you moved in this area?
At 941 Washington Boulevard.
941. And when did you move here, or were you married when you moved here? And what was your spouse's name? You just say,
Yes, I was married when I moved here to Sidney B. Johnson
all right,
Sr.
all right. And how many children do you have?
I have two.
Two children. What about grandchildren?
Oh, I see. Five.
Fine. What about great grandchildren?
Eight.
Eight great grandchildren. That is great. Okay. And my understanding is your spouse is deceased.
Yes.
Okay. What year did he pass?
1968.
1968.
June
So
18.
June the 18th. Now, what year did you move here?
Well, we bought this property in 1949, and my husband was in heavy construction. He drove a dump truck, and we started building in 1952. And it's really a kind of a history behind. And we moved in 1954 and finished building in 1956.
Oh, so your
So
your your spouse, you all built this home
yeah, we
yourself.
built it. We paid as we went along.
Okay.
And the reason I said my husband, well, he was in construction business, heavy construction, and as he got paid, and we needed different things to start with, so we bought lumber and paid as we go. We bought our lumber from Southern Lumber. It was down in the bottoms,
Okay.
and we bought our plumbing from. Well, I guess it was Sullivan's too. And then I was thinking when hesitated, we bought our bathroom. It was a plumbing place at 10th in Minnesota, and they sold all bathroom equipment and stuff like that. So we bought that from them, and Mr. Tenzie Brown, he was the only black plumber in the area. Well, I think really in Kansas City, Kansas, he and there was another plumber,
Was
but
Mathis still?
Matthews.
Yes.
He
Okay.
and Brother Matthews and Tenzie Brown was our plumber.
All right.
And to when we got the house started, Mr. Sam Powell, or Sammy Powell, he lived in 1100 block on Oakland. He was a contractor,
Yes.
and he roughed our house in.
Okay.
And we roughed it in. I guess that was like 1952, and roughing it in was like getting the sides up and the roof on, and just all the windows was cut, everything was cut out. The house was all just like what it was gonna look like, and then we it got wintertime, so we had to stop. But we didn't start back again until in the spring, and our next door neighbor was Mrs. Marguerite Davis at the time, and she told me one day, she said, Johnson said, y'all better come board your place up because they are making uh, they just in and out over there. So it's kind of like a lover's lane. So we came and boarded up during the winter, and then we came back and took the boards off and started back. And the way we built the house, really, my husband really wasn't a contractor, but after Mr. Powell roughed it in, he said, well, he knew enough about building, he could do the inside and the finishing. So he and his brothers, Henry Johnson, Charles Johnson, Shelby Johnson, and the truckers, some of the ones that he worked with, Hal Tonkin and Frank Ragsdale and Big John Smith, whichever, it was eight of them. The truckers would come by when they would get off work and give him a hand. And we were almost like piece by piece, lumber by lumber. But we done our own foundation. They got it dug out, had a contractor dig it out, and it's a 10-inch concrete wall that the concrete that the house sits on.
Oh.
And my husband and I both had said we wanted a brick house. So so it's a brick veneer. So then we went from there And our architect was, I think his name was Robinson. He was in the 1200 block on Central. Real nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was our architect. I
Okay.
still have the plan,
Okay.
that, that the blueprint that we had. And my husband, he done all the measuring and figuring out, and we had it surveyed, and okay. And I said he was from Arkansas and being raised on a farm, there was a lot he knew about building and stuff, so it was just kind of a gift to him, really. So,
What about the brick house? You wanted a brick house?
yes, and he did too. So then that's what we decided on, to do the brick. So, like I said, we done the inside, but Mr. Powell and his brother done the brick.
Okay.
And they done the outside. So he couldn't do that, but they done the brick for us.
That's really interesting because you all actually built this house yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. Did you do it in the construction work, you
Oh
said?
Lord, you should have known the people that Mr. Lewis and Miss Anderson and especially B, they had a fit. They never seen. Mr. Lewis said that the women was all jealous because they never seen nobody work like I work. He would be at work during the day, and like I said, we built the farm for the basement, and they pulled it was built from pieces of boards, and the boards when you pull the farms off, they had nails in it. So I would come up each day and knock these nails out of this lumber
That's
and
amazing.
stack it over. And we use that lumber. We
Okay.
use it for the subflooring and other things, because it was still good. Some of it had holes in it. And we knew a man that was, his name was Ed Reed. He lived down at 8th and Walker. And he was a real good friend of my husband. And he was like a father to them. He's a mentor because my husband's brother, Charles, was a mechanic. And he worked for him. At that time, Ed Reed was taking care of the merchants' delivery trucks, and they used to work together. So, but Ed would come up every day to see how we were doing, and also Mr. D.W. Lewis. And when they were pouring the concrete, well, it started raining, and they sent 5 trucks out here to pour this basement, and Ed happened to be there. And when they started pouring it, that was for the foundation, we heard a little pop, and Ed said, "Oh no." And sure enough, it was just a little part on the west side. It was just a little crack, but it didn't harm anything. So they just kept on pouring it until they got it, and then it set, and we went on from there.
You had mentioned uh, B and Ms. Anderson and D.W. Lewis. They were the neighbors across and the street here, and we do mention in the first part of the video when we talk about Russ, we do talk about B. Would you like to tell us something about the Andersons?
Oh, the Andersons, they were great people. They built their house in 1929, and Miss Anderson, she was so proud that to see young people doing something, doing what we were doing, and she was such an inspiration. And her son Floyd, he worked for the city, and they were such good neighbors and such a booster to us. They just really admired and was so glad. And the abstract, when we got the abstract, in that abstract, Miss Anderson, she was a very proud lady. And that was people that, really in this era, when they moved and built up here, it was they said railroad tracks ran through here going to Leavenworth, but the people had gardens, and there wasn't no houses, but these 4 houses around here. And in 1946, the government built quite a few houses around in the area. But Miss Anderson said in the abstract, and they said, because at that time people could have chickens and stuff, because it was a hard time. And she had in this abstract no chickens, and she wanted to be real proud of this neighborhood. And we all laughed about that, but it was really nice because she wanted the neighborhood to be a nice place.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to carry on even to this day.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Andersons and Beatrice Neely, who was her daughter, and Floyd Anderson, and another son, Kerry Anderson. Uh, now, we mentioned earlier that Alex Haley came here. Did you interact with him when he came? He stated he made many trips here.
Yeah, whenever he was here, I was always go to the Anderson.
Okay.
He never stayed over. He would stay like during the day, and she would always cook food because Floyd came home to lunch and midday, and she would always cook and Alex would. But Miss Anderson was the one that really inspired Alex to write the book because she knew all about Tennessee and the people there. So he would come and visit her, but she told him different things, to say and to write, and that's why he would be over there so much. He was a cousin to them.
On the first part of the video, we actually have his voice where he talks about coming here, and Cousin George is the one who inspired him and told him, now you get out and go do what you're supposed
That's
to
true.
do. All right, now there are other people that lived in the neighborhood. Just give us the names of some other people who lived in the neighborhood along Everett and Oakland and Washington that you knew and interact with, because you know almost everybody in the neighborhood on there, and everybody knows you too.
Yeah, when I lived at 941 Washington Boulevard, because I lived with Louis Kemp, and Mr. Kemp, he had a story to tell. I don't know if he was born in Kansas or not, but he said when he first came to Kansas, well, I guess when he was living here in Kansas City, Negroes lived down in the bottoms, and then they moved up to 3rd Street, 2nd Street, and then they moved up, and when I first came to Kansas City in 1942, I lived at 1606 North 9th Street. I had an uncle with my brother, my husband, my father's brother. I lived there, but I stayed there, I guess, about 3 months or more, and I got a job at the SS Crescent at 6 in Minnesota. So that was one reason I came. My uncle used to come home in Vicksburg, Mississippi. He would come every summer. And as we were growing up, and he would tell my mom and dad, said, let that girl come to Kansas City and get a job during the summer. Because there wasn't a whole lot to do in Vicksburg. I would do work babysitting and housekeeping. But he had me to come here, and I started working at SS Crescent for 29 cents an hour. And I was living at 1606 North 9th Street. So I stayed with them about maybe 6 months or more. And then there was a lady that she was the bakery at SS Crescent named Jill Thompson. She baked the rolls, and Merle Stocker, she was a cook. And then Mrs. I can't think of her name. I want to say Regan, but it was 3 ladies in the kitchen. One made pies, one done the bakery, and the other one done the food, which was Merle. But anyway, I moved with Jill Thompson, and that house still sits there right behind Douglas Bank, 523 Everett. And then after that, I met my husband, Sidney Johnson, at the dime store. He was running on the road, Rock Island Railroad, and he would come in there and eat. And at that time, they only had, I think it was like 6 stools in the back of the store where Negroes, would sit and eat. And he would come in because he was right on the road, and he would always be dressed up. And because we kind of fell for each other. I was still living at 941 Washington Boulevard, and we got married in 1946. But and on Washington Boulevard there were the Waltons, Charles Walton, and there was a Drew drugstore on the corner, and there was a insurance company right. Well, it was Mr. Drew's building right next to it. I think it was Universal.
Universal Life.
Yeah, Universal Life. And then there was they lived across the street, he was in school system. The house is still there.
Oh, Mr. Reynolds?
He had 2 sons and a daughter. His daughter married Helen Boswell's brother. He's still there.
Oh, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Curry.
G.A. Curry.
Mr. Curry. That house is still there.
Yes. And Bishop Hamlet.
And Bishop Hamlet. Yeah, that's right. Because Bishop Hamlet, when I joined St. Peter's, He was a bishop at St. Peter's.
Well, further in this area
But-
here, in the immediate area where you live
And
here
that
now.
was right across from me. We built a house at 12th in the northeast corner of 12th Street. The Gatons lived on the south side, right across from me.
What was his first name?
Oh, that was Mr. Gaton.
Was it Lahoma?
No, that was Lahoma's dad. That was her name. His daughter was named Lahoma.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't think of his first name.
Okay.
And on the south side, that was Attorney Bradley.
It's I.F. Bradley.
A.F. Bradley. And next door to him was the Rileys. And next door to the Rileys was I can't think of their name either, but he was an older man no, next door to the Rileys was the Justice,
Right.
Norman Justice,
Right.
uncle.
Yes.
Yeah, next to him was the Justice. And then across the street from the Justice was D.W. Lewis. And then next door to him was Anderson. Next to D.W. Lewis was I can't think of those two ladies' names, but formerly that house belonged to, okay, Cab, what was his name?
Frazier.
Mr. Frazier. In fact, Mr. Frazier built his house. In fact, going back to building our house, Mr. Frazier built his house. Mr. I can't think of people that lived in before. Oh shoot, who was that? Before they built their house, he worked at the drugstore at Fifth and Quindale. He built his house.
Was it a Morgan?
Morgan.
Morgan?
Yeah,
Okay.
Morgan built his house just before we built this one. And we got to be real close and used to tease each other about our houses and things. But that was Mr. Gaten, Mr. Bradley, Mr. Riley, and then the house is Bishop Gregg on the corner of 12th and Washington Boulevard. Can I get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to St. Peter's. You've been there. How long have you been a member there?
Since 1947.
47. And I'm sure you served in many capacities in that church.
Sunday school teacher for 45 years.
Wow.
Usher board for 50-some years. Senior usher board. Yeah, 50-some. In fact, I'm still serving. I'm trying to get off of it, but they won't let me. I still serve as an usher at St. Peter.
Okay.
But I just gave up Sunday school Easter. I gave up Sunday school.
Okay.
Because one thing, I gave it up because when I'm older, and then my Sunday school had gone down, so and then kind of lost my health a little. And getting up so early every Sunday morning, it kind of was getting next to me. And then our Sunday school, like I said, had gone down, so we didn't have the two children. In the kindergarten, I taught kindergarten in first grade when the first grade teacher didn't show up. But I'm still going. I went to church yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess you, during that period, you lived in kind of what would be considered a community, where basically everybody knew everybody. Do you see that today?
No. No way. No, it's nothing like it used to be.
Okay. Well,
they always say like the lady that had bought the home at 1200 Everett, or the lady before that bought it, she was a single lady, Anna Jean Cross, and she sold it a year ago. And the lady that bought it, Mrs. Davis, told her, said, anything you want to know, say you ask Blanche Johnson, say, because she takes care of the neighborhood.
Well, I've heard that too. That anything you want to know, just ask Blanche Johnson. That's when I moved up here. I moved here in 1977. So, and that's a tribute, Miss Johnson,
Well,
because
thank
people
you.
respect you, and you lived here, and with your gentle nature. At least that's what we see. I don't know if your children would say that all the time, but we certainly appreciate what you do in the neighborhood. Now, the house, I don't know who owned the house where Martha Burks eventually purchased. I don't know who originally owned the house, but it's a certainly nice house.
Well, at one time there, the Metropolitan Baptist Church bought it.
The Reverend Lampkin lived there
Yeah,
for a
they
period of
owned
time.
it when Martha bought it.
Yes.
They bought it from Reverend Lankin was living
And I think prior to Reverend Lancaster, I think Ed Tillman lived there for a
there.
short period of time.
Right.
Yes.
He was there before that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Oh, one of your neighbors next to where the gate was uh, James H. Brown.
Uh-huh.
And who lived there before him? Do you?
You know, I don't know because they were here. They were here when we built. I'm sure they were living. They were up here when we built. So I don't know. I know who lived next door was Mrs. Ross, but I don't know who was in the Browns' house.
Yeah.
Before they moved in there.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, Mr. Brown was quite a figure. So in this neighborhood, and you do had some outstanding persons, and it was kind of a mesh of good people.
Right.
And a lot who achieved and who got along and interacted, which I think made for strong children. And I think that's what's missing today. What do you think about that? So you would see like your husband interacting with a lawyer across the street, not that one is better than the other, but it takes both.
Uh-huh.
One was just as important as the other,
Right.
and they understood that.
Right.
But I think that's one of the things that's missing now is that we've separated ourselves now. And this is clear across the country in any neighborhood that you can find. People tend to not know one another. Would you think that was a fair assessment with people getting to know one another and the interaction between people?
Yeah, because you know, we didn't have any children. Oh, they were born in 1957 and 58, and we were here a while. But in between that, I worked with Campfire Girls. Well, it was Bluebirds, but it really was, and there was lots of children in the neighborhood at that time. The 1200 block on Oakland, the 1200 block on Everett, and 1100 block and 1000 block. And sometimes people had dogs, and the kids would come past here, and they would be running and screaming and hollering, and I'd look out and see what's wrong with the dog after. I would get in my car and take them to school. And we had lots of children that would do that. And right now, there's a Mrs. Matthews. They have moved. They lived in 1200 block on Oakland. And I have a real good friend, it's Ethel Hall, that they were nurses at at Providence Hospital, and each one had a birthday. They get together. So just this month, Mrs. Hall was telling me that Mrs. Matthews said to her, asked how was I. She said she is such a lady. Said she sure helped me with my girl in Campfire. Said I never will forget her. And at that time, when I started out at Douglas, I had the first grade. I had 19 girls, Campfire girls. But the mothers, you know, they helped, and I had assigned so many. They helped me, Miss Hassan in the 1200 block, Miss Matthews, and Miss Versigar, and just around, and Miss Baskin in the 1100 block, or 1000 block on Walker. Mm-hmm. So I really was kind of, and people would say to me, they thought I was a school teacher. And I said no, because I knew so many people. But my theory is that I worked in the church, I worked in the school system, and that's how I knew so many people. I remember when we had weekday church school from Douglas, and Mrs. Blunt, she was at First AME, and we had it at 8th Street, we had it at Mason Lamore, and St. Peter's, and First AME. But we would walk the kids from Douglas to First AME, and that's when I met the Carruthers. But I had an older son, and Pat Carruthers and my son went from kindergarten to Douglas all the way through Sumner together. And Pat, she was something else. she was like a boy. And believe it or not, we are still friends. Good. Her mother and I. Her mother takes me out to dinner, and we still close, and we belong to the same church. Same church. St. Peter's.
Now, in the 1000 block on Washington, I think there was Mr. Phillips, the Phillips.
Yeah, Miss Phillips. We used to walk the kids to school.
Walk the kids together. I remember her.
Did.
Yeah, she was very active. That's something that she thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
in that block, well, let's see, did you know Mrs. Long, Ethel Long?
Yes.
Because we're gonna
She
do
built a house
come
there.
into.
Mhm.
She built 3 along
Yeah,
Washington
she
Boulevard.
did. They had a laundry down on Fifth Street.
Yes, that she ran.
Yeah, that she ran.
She ran.
She was quite a lady.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, on the corner of 11th and Washington, Mr. Murray, did you know him?
Not as well, but I knew him.
No.
But I didn't know him wholly. He was blind.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were 2 apartment buildings, which was interesting. Did you know anybody who lived in those buildings?
No, right next to Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Yeah, I did know. I do remember one lady, but I don't remember her name.
Do you remember Ruth Watson?
Yes.
And Ruth and Bernard Watson?
Bernard Watson. Those
Yeah.
are the people that I remember.
Yeah, she was active in the PTA.
Right.
Very active.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very interesting. We appreciate it. We've taken up almost the whole time of the video. We appreciate this. We're trying to do this because oftentimes there is no record and people don't know the real good neighborhoods that existed and can exist once again if we do what we're doing now.
Right.
Work. You got to work to make it. It's not as easy as it used to be.
No.
What are some of the things that you would like to see us do in this neighborhood?
I would like to see now there's 2 houses. Well, really there's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. 2 of them has burned down, and then another apartment building was torn down. Another house was torn down, and another house. So there's 5 houses that this block was was loaded. But I would like to see some houses on these vacant lots. And the place cleaned up, and there was a time, the alley behind me, they used to go through here 2 or 3 times a year and clean that alley. You could drive through the alley,
Yeah.
but you can't do that anymore. It's all grown up and it's a mess back there. So I would like to see that cleaned up,
All right.
that alley.
Well, maybe you have to resurrect Mr. Anderson again, Floyd Anderson. Who took care of a lot of things.
Yes.
Well, we're going to work on that, Ms. Johnson, and we certainly appreciate the interview, and we're going to enjoy showing this. We had planned to just do probably 5 minutes from each person, but that's impossible.
It is.
So what we're going to do is probably at one meeting, we're just going to show the beginning, show some things with Alex Haley, and then probably at one meeting, we're going to show one interview of a person after we show the initial beginning. And you're the first person that we've interviewed. We did talk about some of the other things and some other people, but you're the first person we actually interviewed. So I'm looking forward. So hopefully we're going to interview a lot of the persons who lived here, and then at the association, we want to interview everybody who's a member, and that's going to take a period of time to do it. But we do want to interview everybody that's in the association.
Very
Thanks
good.
again, Ms. Johnson, so
Very
much
good.
for the interview.
Thank you.